The 2010 Ford Mustang hits the market just as it's receiving its first competition since 2002. Ford has answered its new competitors by giving its iconic pony car a more modern look and a vastly improved interior.
The main intent was to create a modern interpretation of the classic design icon, which is Mustang. And what we wanted to do was make it more contemporary, more modern, and more sexy and sleek than today's car. We elevated the bumper height from today's car, brought the corners lower down to the ground, wrapping around the wheel arches more tightly. And this gave a more sinister, hunkered down approach to the front end of the car. We've introduced LED technology for the first time on the tail lamp with distinct chambers lighting up. And that look, that signature look, is unmistakable on the road, whether it's lit or unlit.
We wanted to have a lot more dimension and shape and sculpture, and you'll see all of the beautiful surfacing on all of the shapes. We wanted to dramatically improve the execution. That means better materials, better execution of craftsmanship and fit and finish, and I think you're definitely going to see that when you sit inside the car. So if you look at the new IP design, which is a new soft instrument panel, which is a big jump in materials from the 05 to 09 car, you'll see that we took the double brown, we actually repeated it, and it now forms the bottom shape of the real genuine aluminum panels. So in doing things like that, we just took everything that made it a Mustang and emphasized it and made it better. When we made the gauges sub-flush of the IP or drilled into the aluminum, what that did is it did two things. Functionally, you now were able to see the numbers a little bit better because the depth of the tunnel was reduced. What that did is it gave us a little bit less room for the actual lens that went into the cluster. So we had to come up with another solution. So we went through a bunch of iterations, and we saw that a conical shape actually would work for us, and it actually would reduce glare. What was great about that is if you look in our bloodline, you'll see that we had conical lenses in some of our Mustangs of the past.
Since the majority of Mustang sales are of the V6 variety, changes of the aesthetic kind are paramount to the pony car's success. V8 owners, however, demand that power and agility are part of the package, and Ford gave the Mustang more grunt while also spending a lot of time and money on handling.
On the V8, one thing we did do was increase the power to 315 from 300, the torque from 320 to 325, and we did that by going to a cold air intake. So instead of grabbing air out of the wheel well, we're grabbing it out the front of the car, so you're always getting cold air. About 20 degrees Fahrenheit cooler, which is 0.3 seconds, 0 to 60 on a street start, which is really awesome. One thing we've brought also into the V8 is a few extra axles. Right now you can get a 331 or a 355. We're adding the 373 axle as something available. So a little just out of the hole, a little punch, a little go. Just on the V6 we also added a rear bar. Didn't have a rear stay bar except on the pony, but now it's across the board. We upped the spring rates and we increased the damping. We have a few more knobs in terms of our valve stacks and things on the shocks. So what that does is on both cars is we're able to have better control, better primary ride control without making the car harsher. In fact, so we have better control. It's flatter when you're turning. It's flatter in pitch when you're braking or when you're accelerating. And then also we're able to manage the little road inputs or impacts that come through. V6, V8 have standard anti-lock brakes, traction control, and advanced track, which is electronic stability control. That means by looking at what the steering wheel is doing, looking at what the tires are doing at each four corner, and looking what the car is doing both in a yaw sense and a lateral sense, we're able to actually brake an individual wheel or tire to bring the car back into shape. On the V6, you can turn it completely off, or it defaults on, and then on the V8, it'll default being on, we can turn it off, or we can run it in a performance mode. And that was tuned at the track to allow the car to hang out a bit, just like you would on a track day. But if it gets a little too far, then it'll bring you back in.
The Ford Mustang may not be the most powerful pony car, but the heavily updated 2010 model brings a fresh look inside and out, along with significant upgrades to ride and handling. Ford's hoping that translates into improved traffic at your local Ford dealer, and if the past is any indication, the Blue Oval's most recognizable vehicle will continue its long history of success. For Autoblog, I'm Chris Shunk.